Now, I'd like to introduce our amazing editor at Toronto Life. At the center of Toronto Life, beyond the membership program, beyond everything we do, is the most amazing magazine in the country. A magazine that's won more awards for journalism than any other magazine in the history of Canada. And our incredible editor is Sarah Fulford. And I'd like to introduce her to you now.
Thank you, Ken. Can you hear me okay? And thank you all so much for joining us this evening for what I think is going to be a completely fascinating and inspiring story. I have the great pleasure of introducing a true hero of mine. Samra Zafar came to Canada from the United Arab Emirates when she was just 17 as a bride, a reluctant, nervous bride who had never come to Canada before. And she entered into what turned out to be an abusive marriage. By the sheer force of her character, her determination, her commitment to herself, to her own education, she clawed her way out of that abusive marriage in a way that I find so inspiring. If you haven't read the Toronto Life article she published about her story in 2017, which was the best read article that we published that year. It was a huge viral sensation, read everywhere all over the world. If you haven't read that article, and even if you have, you should buy her book, which is being published next week, available here for purchase. Because even though I felt I was very familiar with her story, when I read it, I learned so many details that were harrowing and emotionally heart-wrenching and surprising and revealing. And it's a truly powerful, powerful book. Sharon Bala, the author of The Boat People, said of her book, which I think is a perfect summary, it's a modern-day fairy tale in which the heroine saves her own life. Please join me in welcoming Samra.
We're all like color coordinated, like it's like meant to be. Like we put hours of prep into it.
So just to give you a sense of what we're going to do, we're going to chat for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour. We could probably talk for 3 hours. We won't do that. And then we'll open the floor up to some questions. So as you're hearing Samra's story, if anything comes to mind that you want to ask her, you'll have the opportunity to do that when we're done talking. So Samra, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Brad.
Take us back, if you can bear, to when you were just 15, 16, 17. What kind of girl were you? I know you were into cricket, you were...
I was a shit disturber. I think I still am. I was just, very different. And a lot of my cousins and classmates and other girls around me would dream about wedding gowns and what color bangle they're going to wear on their wedding day, and I would be dreaming about Harvard and Stanford and getting a great education and having a career and changing the world and whatnot. So I was often told, but as I was like little, I remember, yeah, that's great, you have all these dreams. And then as I was growing up, you can dream, but don't expect those dreams to come true. People would just laugh it off as if it was just childish, naive fantasies. I was definitely a cricket lover. So I used to play cricket outside with the boys, and then when I turned 14, 15, 16, I was now too big and I had a developing body and it was not okay and I should stay at home. So then I started a girls' cricket team in my school. And then I started a school newspaper because I wanted to have all these ideas that I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I was a bit of a black sheep in many ways. Just always wanting to push the boundaries and challenge the stereotypes.
And you're, at first, if I understand correctly, you thought that your marriage to a Canadian was actually a ticket to a university education.
Yeah, I did. When the marriage proposal was first presented to me, or my mom pretty much came into my room and I was doing math homework, and she told me that, oh, this is what happened, and you have a marriage proposal. And I was like, what? I'm in grade 11, you gotta be kidding me. And my mom was like, you have all these dreams of going to school, and going to university somewhere abroad, but you're a girl, we can't send you away. It's inappropriate. So think of this as a win-win. Like if you're married and you go to Canada and he says he will allow you to study, so you can go and have an education, and we won't be worried about you, that our girl is all alone and without a guardian. So don't think that you're getting married, just think you're going to school.
But when you came to Canada, those promises were dashed.
Yeah, I was told, like, I became a mom right away at the age of 18, and then we were living together with his parents, so it was a combined family. And his mother one day said to me when my baby was maybe a month old, and I brought up school, and she said that if you were a doctor or if you were in med school and we stopped your education in the middle, maybe that would have been a bit unfair. But right now you don't even have high school, so there's nothing wrong if you don't go to school. In fact, you should be grateful to us that you got to the real purpose of being a girl sooner rather than later and didn't have to go through all of that education crap. So, yeah.
When I was reading your book, I was thinking about some of the discussions we're having here in Ontario about sexual health education. And I wonder what you knew. You mentioned you had become a mother. What did you know about the men and women and how their bodies worked before you came to Canada?
Nothing. I mean, I knew enough that, as a girl, I get my period every month. But apart from that, I sort of, we've been sort of touched upon reproduction system in grade 8, but no one talked about it. Like, birth control was like remember my aunt telling me that don't ever take birth control pills because they will mess up your fertility. And then his sister educating me on the fact that being a mother is a girl's greatest privilege and greatest sort of purpose. So never to mess up with that, and I had no idea. I was just literally just going by hearsay. There was no formal education. My mother had never talked to me about it. I think it was just sort of, okay, whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen.
So there you are, a young mother. You still had to complete grade 13 because there was still a grade 13 at the time in Ontario to get to university. And the first of many heroic endeavors, you managed to do all this through correspondence courses despite being discouraged. How did you do it?
It was a time when my baby was just born, and while I was pregnant, actually, at that time his parents hadn't moved here, and he was more open to the idea of me going to school. So we went to the local high school in my area, and the principal there looked at me and she said, "How old are you?" I'm like, "I'm 18. She's like, "So why aren't you in school?" And I said, and he was right beside me, and I said, "Well, I'm married and I'm pregnant, and I don't think, I don't know, I mean, can I go to school here?" And she had like the most compassionate, but also like, "I'm really feeling sorry for you right now" kind of face. And she said that, "I think it's best that you go to adult school because she mentioned that she was fearful that I might get bullied at school because I was pregnant." So she referred me to the local adult learning center where I took one course, and then when I became a mom and I delivered my baby, that was very hard for me to attend. And then the teacher there told me about the independent learning center. So I called ILC, and the person who I was talking to said, "So how old are you?" I'm like, "I'm 18. Like, why aren't you in school?" I'm like, "It's complicated." And he goes, "Well, like most people your age, like 17, 18, the ones that are doing courses through us are kids who are in prison and who cannot go to school for, various crimes." And we're like, I laughed, and I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of have the same situation." So, but you know, it was a little bit of a light in a dark tunnel, and I one by one just ordered courses, and like if there's one thing that I will not give up on is my dream for an education.
So, miraculously, or maybe by force of your own determination, you complete high school, get accepted to both York and U of T Mississauga. This is all with lots of negative feedback at home about doing this. This is not seen as a worthy pursuit. And then you have a setback, which is you can't afford to go. There's enough money in your household, but no one's willing to share that money. So you come up with this very clever idea of earning money. And I read this passage about you opening a home daycare, and I thought, you know, the shelves of every bookstore are filled with stories of the 7 habits of highly successful people and all these, how you could parse your time. And I thought, you know, Samra really should write that book, because I have no idea how you pulled it off. Can you tell us how you managed somehow, despite all the odds, to make enough money to pay for your university education?
Well, it was, when I was doing it, it never really seemed like I'm doing something amazing or anything. It was just me trying to find little ways and little strategies, like what would work, like literally, like throw everything at the wall and something will stick. So when I was told that there's no useless money to waste on my education, and I couldn't get OSAP because OSAP looks at household income and his income was high enough above the threshold. So I was like, well, okay, I gotta make money at home. So I started like researching online, like all kinds of like, you know, affiliate schemes and marketing and this and that. What could I do? And then I knew that I, you know, knew how to take care of kids. I had 2 of mine by then. So I started to put ads online for babysitting, and started getting calls. And within like 6 months or so, I had a clientele built, and you know, I had the advantage of being fluent in English, so I was able to communicate with my potential clients, and I got permission to work as long as it was from home. And because I was supplementing the income in the household, and most of my money will go towards him and his parents and the family, I got permission for it, as long as I was not going outside of the house and being promiscuous. So I just used that, and little by little just saved every penny that I could until I had that $2,500 for my first year tuition.
Not everyone knows exactly what domestic abuse looks like, what it feels like, how it manifests itself. But your book is so fascinating because there are real moments of tenderness between you and your ex-husband, and he has moments of being kind-hearted or behaving in a tender fashion, but then he has these dark, monstrous moments. Can you talk a little bit about what was going on at home?
Yeah, so that's why it becomes so hard for women to leave, or anyone to leave an abusive situation, because it's never all bad. And it's very rare that, you know, abusers are psychopaths or sociopaths or like completely like villainous, monstrous creatures who have no good in them. They are, at their core, there is good. It's just a very flawed value system that they have, or it's unhealed trauma, or it's, you know, just an upbringing or normalization of abuse. I know that, you know, his own mother was married at the age of 14, and she had been abused, and so that's kind of what he grew up with, and he normalized it, and that's what he expected of me. Often he told me, like, why can't you just be a normal woman? And you know, why do you have to be so like ambitious, and like why do we have to be so abnormal and crazy? So it was like I constantly felt that there's something wrong with me, and I need to do better and be a good wife in order to earn that respect. And no matter what I did, it just wasn't good enough. And yeah, there's always a cycle. It's never all bad. And you know, there would be an abusive episode or something would happen, and then you would go into this honeymoon period and be the best husband who could ever exist. And I'm like, okay, it's over, it's all gonna be great now, and a new beginning and all of that. And then slowly but surely, the tension would start building up. And like over the years, I actually became really like I started to like really pick up on like those little signs. Like if I would hear him, like if he would walk a certain way, I would know, okay, then something's brewing. Or he would just walk up the stairs with a bit more force. Or I would hear a door slam somewhere in the house, and I'm like, oh God, something's gonna happen today or tomorrow. And it always did. So the tension starts building up, and then it happens again, and then it's the honeymoon period again, and you're just caught in this cycle of hot and cold, and it's like almost impossible to extricate out of yourself out of that, and think that, step back and say, it's nothing to do with me, because no matter what, that person will find something that you did as justification for their behavior, and when you're in that cycle, you just internalize it.
As you and I were chatting earlier, there were two touch points in your story where an institution, an employee, a trained professional identified that you were suffering from abuse. The first was at an Ontario early years drop-in center funded by the provincial government, where parents can go with their kids. And what happened when you started leaving the house to take your kids there?
It was my older daughter, and she was about a year and a half or 2 years old, and that was the only permission that I got to go out of the house to take her to this drop-in early years center class kind of thing. And the lady who used to run that, Nusa, she was just such a gem, and she would pick up on things like. The first time it happened, and she said something to me was like, the class was running a little bit later than usual, so and my daughter was like putting googly eyes on her craft, and she was just taking her time, and she was really enjoying herself. And I'm just like started yelling at her, like, can you hurry up? Just get on with it. We have to go home. We're running late. And I started to like snatch the craft away from her, and Nusa was like, Samra, calm down. It's okay. Like, it's going to be another 15 minutes. Let her finish. She's really having fun and enjoying herself. My daughter's like crying, like, Mommy, I need to finish this. And I just got really like scared that, oh my God, I'm going to be like 15 minutes late, and then I'm going to get yelled at, and he might get mad, and he might throw something, or he might hit me, and she is sort of like, she noticed those signs of abuse before I even knew what to call them. And that was the first time somebody noticed.
And then the second time was when you did finally, after 10 years of having been in Canada, you became a university student at U of T Mississauga. Your dream come true, and having worked yourself to pay for the tuition, and then you notice a sign for the counseling service. What was that all about?
Yeah, so I was walking on campus, and when I had started university, something really cool started to happen. Like when I would be in school, I would be treated with kindness and respect. People would want to be my friend. They would actually want to talk to me. And then I would go home, and I would be insulted and humiliated and told that I was not deserving of love or respect. So I was like always confused at that time, like, who am I? Like, am I this rock star that everyone at school seems to think I am, or I'm this useless, worthless creature who's just worth being humiliated? And one day, as I was walking on campus to the bookstore, I came across this sandwich board on the floor, and it had like a bunch of questions on it. Do you feel intimidated? Do you feel like you've lost your voice? Do you feel like you can't go on? Do you feel like you're living in fear? Do you feel like you cannot speak up? And I'm just standing there, mesmerized, and saying yes, yes, yes to each of those questions. So I'd come in and make an appointment. So I go in and I make an appointment, and sitting across from my counselor a few days later, I'm just like, can you just tell me what's wrong with me? Why can't I be a good wife? Why can't I do better? Like, maybe if I wash better clothes, or keep the baby quieter at night, and not talk too much, and not express opinions, or not have opinions, or what do I need to do to be a good wife and to be accepted? and respected. And if this is normal, if this is how I'm supposed to be treated, because my mother and his mother and everyone tells me that a good wife stays quiet and she tolerates and she, just keeps the family honor intact. If this is normal, and if this is the way it's supposed to be, then why doesn't this voice in my head go quiet? That no, it doesn't feel normal, and there's something better out there. And this counselor just heard me go on and on for an hour, and then she said one sentence that I believe at that time changed my life. She said, "Samra, it's not your fault. No matter what you do not deserve to be treated this way." And no one had ever said that to me before, because up until then it was always my fault. And that really, that was the first time I heard the word abuse. She said, "You're being abused." And I went, "What? There's actually a name for this thing?"
And so how did you eventually extricate yourself from the marriage?
It still took another 3 years. I started university in 2008, and I finally was able to leave in 2011. 3 years, lots of back and forth, lots of attempts at leaving, and then I would go back because of all the cultural stigma and the shame that came with it. And maybe I need to stay for the sake of my children. Maybe I should stay for the sake of the family honor, and I'd be rejected. Will I ever find anyone else? Will I be somehow perceived as broken or damaged or something? And how will anyone ever love me? Or what does that say about my future? And will I be able to make it? Will I find a job? Will I? I'm going to be 10 years older than everybody else in my class when I graduate. Will I actually be successful in a career? And all these fears, and the biggest fear was the shame that was going to come my way inevitably. For walking away and breaking my marriage, because it was a woman's job to keep it intact. So there was a lot of back and forth, but eventually the turning point, there were two actually. One, the violence had escalated to a point where I was actually afraid for my life. And there were a couple times when he picked up a knife and threatened to kill me, and he choked me, and so that was I was like, okay, this is not getting better. And the most important factor was learning through counseling that there's a generational cycle for abuse too. So a lot of kids who grow up exposed to family violence will normalize it, and they will either inflict it or tolerate it. And I did not want my girls to grow up thinking that it was normal to be treated this way just because you're girls. And it was like, if not for me, I gotta do it for them.
That's amazing. So there you were out on your own, and you had never paid your bills before, and you had never, hooked up Wi-Fi. How did you manage out on your own?
It was very, very scary. The most difficult thing was filling up gas. I never filled up gas before. I never went and gotten my car fixed, and when the first time I went
still
into
scary for some of us.
Yeah. The first time I walked into the car mechanic shop, I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? I don't belong here. It was just very, very intimidating. And I never really made real friends before. I didn't know what networking was. Everyone seems to throw around that word at university. Oh, you got to network in order to get a job. I don't know what that is. It was really intimidating. Every day I was like, who am I kidding? This is not going to work. This is not going to happen. And what kind of fantasy world I'm living in that I think I'll actually make it. And there were a lot of people around me telling me that too. You're not going to make it. You're going to fall flat on your face. You're going to be ashamed. You're a family forever, and all of that. But I guess it was just reminding myself of my why. And certainly there were days when I felt like going back. In fact, there were a couple times I even called him and said, is there any way we can make it work or whatever, but then I would come to my senses and realize, no, it was my daughter, both of them, but especially my older one, who would who would hold my hand and say, "Mom, we've come this far. Let's just keep going. Don't turn back. It's going to be even worse now if you go back, because he's going to want to take revenge that you left in the first place." And she was quite smart even at the age of 10. And just like, friends who were around me. I moved to UTM campus housing, so friends who just wanted to rally around me when I was having those moments, and that's what kept me from going back.
So there you are at university housing with 2 kids, working a pair of jobs. You were fighting a domestic violence case and also fighting for alimony. And you still got a 4.0 GPA all the way through and won a scholarship. So what, you write in your book that you ask yourself that you managed to do all that, you managed to escape, and so many people in a similar situation don't. What distinguishes you and your situation from women who can't escape?
As much as I'd like to think that it's because I'm some kind of superwoman, I'm not. The game changer was the people and the community that I had around me. Absolutely. If I didn't have the community at UTM, the friends, the professors, the mentors who helped me at that time, I would have gone back, no question. And I would have kept being in that yo-yo of going back and leaving and then going back, because I left, on average, a woman leaves 7 times before she's finally able to leave. Then sometimes she never does. I left 6 or 7 times myself before I was finally able to leave. And even then I had thoughts of going back. But during those moments, it was the people that I had around me who held my hand and said, "We believe in you, you're not alone, you can do this." And that is what creates resilience. It's the connection and it's the support system we have around us. And that's what survivors need, that's what women need, that's what anyone who goes through any trauma or abuse needs, is human connection. People around us who can believe in us, who can tell us, who can show us the epiphany of our own power, because that power and that strength lies inside us. But sometimes we need others to show us that. And I had those people to show me that. Before, like in the first 10 years of my marriage, I didn't have that, because I was just at home and I wasn't meeting anybody, and my family and his family were telling me the same things, and that I should stay and make it work, and I would have probably stayed and made it work, and destroyed myself in the process. But when I stepped foot on campus and when I met those other people, and when I saw that, yeah, there's a world out there that doesn't see me that way, doesn't see me as just some inhumane creature orbiting around a man, and that's my only existence. Like, there's a world out there that sees me for who I am, and my dreams actually matter, and my thoughts matter, and my voice matters, and I do have the right to live with respect and dignity. And there are people out there who believe in me and who will support me in that journey. And that is what creates resilience. So what survivors need beyond, shelters and police and money and all of that is a community of support. It's a sense of belonging. That, yeah, we're not gonna just be all alone and, chewed up and spit out on the side of the road. We actually are human beings and we matter. And there are others around us who will help us through that. And when you have that, you can achieve anything.
So in 2013, you won the top prize in economics at the University of Toronto, and you were interviewed by a prominent Pakistani-Canadian newspaper. Very smart journalist, I think, said, "Wow, you have an amazing story. Would you be willing to tell it?" And you thought about it, and then you did decide to tell your story. And what was the reaction?
Actually, again, it was my daughter who convinced me to share it, because initially I was like, no way, I'm not going to talk about my past. It's too shameful, it's too traumatic. And I just wanted to talk about my dreams, and I'm going to do my PhD and become a professor and all of that. And my daughter said, "Mom, if every woman thinks it's too traumatic and too shameful, then how will this change? So I think you should do it." So I shared, and it actually got published on my convocation day. So in the morning, I go and get my degree at U of T, and it already a very emotional moment for me. I've waited for this piece of paper for like 15 years. And then I came home, and logged into Facebook, and it was flooded with like hundreds and hundreds of messages from around the world, women and men and kids, and just writing to me of how much it inspired them, and they were motivated to take charge of their own life, and people who were, a woman wrote to me, I'm going through the same thing, and I was about to kill myself today, and your story came to me at the right time. A man writing to me that I lost my job a year and a half ago, and I just don't know how to go on, and because my industry is becoming obsolete, and you know what? I'm going to put myself back into school, and I'm going to reinvent my career. So like all these wonderful, heartfelt messages of thanks and congratulations. Thank you for breaking the silence. Thank you for speaking up. And I'm going through this too. This happened to me too. It was just really overwhelming in a good way. I was like, wow, at one point I also felt very sad that this happens to a lot of people, but also like, okay, this is not just my story. This happens to a lot of people, and people don't talk about it because of shame and stigma and lack of support, lack of awareness. And I found something that spoke to me, and I found that I could actually use my voice now to help others, and you turn those negatives into positives. And one particular woman reached out to me at that time from Waterloo, and similar story. She was born and raised here, graduate of Waterloo, pushed into an arranged marriage, was being abused, and wanted to leave, and she just couldn't, or she didn't have that support system from her family. And she's like, can I talk to you on Skype, or can I just talk to you? And I got into my car the next day and drove to Waterloo, and sat down spent the whole day with her, and poured my heart out. And I said, you're not alone. I believe in you. You can do this. You have an education. Your daughter is like a newborn. She's not going to even remember anything. And so if I can do it, absolutely you can do it. And if you want me to come with you to the lawyer's office and just hold your hand, or just talk to you, like if you're having a bad moment, just call me. Even if it's 2 a.m., just give me a call. And I know what those moments feel like, because I've been through them, but just do not go back. And you do deserve better. And I came back home, and I'm hoping to God that I got through to her. And then 3 weeks later, as I'm shopping in Walmart, she texts me and says, I found myself again when I met you, and I've enrolled myself into a master's program, and I'm going to change my life. It's been, 6 years now? She's now doing her executive MBA from Ivy Business School. She's working at KPMG, making 6 figures, and has an amazing life. And her daughter is the most cutest thing ever. And often, she says, and now she's mentoring other women and paying it forward, and she says to me, Samra, you saved my life. I'm like, nope, you saved your life. All you needed was somebody to show you that you have that power and that you deserve it. And that is when I found my purpose, and I was like, yeah, I would often question like why I went through all that abuse and then persevered and succeeded. Why did that happen to me? And when I started speaking up and helping others, I found my why.
I'm going to ask 2 more questions and then open it to the floor. So if you have any, now's your chance to think about what you might want to ask Samra about her amazing story. So in a week and a bit, you'll be publishing your memoir, which is for sale over there. And I'm curious to know how the book came together, and also you have some thoughts about how the cover was chosen that I'm interested in.
Well, the book came together because of Toronto Life. So thank you. I really have to thank you for that. It was after the article is when I was approached by publishers, and I signed up with HarperCollins. It's been 2 years now, I can't believe it, and it's been such a tremendous journey. Writing this book was very emotional, very cathartic, and the one thing that I set out to do with this book was be very vulnerable. And I said, I want, a lot of times when I do speak speeches and talks and stuff, women would often write to me or come to me and say, you know, you can do it because you're so strong. I don't think I have that strength. And I'm like, but I wasn't who I am today back then. You know, I had the same fears, I had the same barriers, the same challenges, and I really wanted to get deep into that and uncover those complexities and why women go back and forth and why I went back and forth and all those things that keep you trapped and the cultural implications and whatnot. So the book is very, very deep and it required me to be very vulnerable. So. And the cover, oh my gosh, I had a very hard time with the cover. I was like, I don't want the world to see that.
So it's a picture from your wedding?
It was a picture from my wedding. And I was like, I don't want the world to see that. I am that woman in the blue dress and the red heels in Toronto Life. You know, the strong, powerful, you know, independent woman who, and that, like, you know, that is not me. Like, that's not me anymore. That weak and powerless girl. And I realized that I was actually ashamed of it, ashamed of my past. I was like, I always used to think of my life as a before and after. Like, that was me before, this is me now. Like, there's a distance. And in October, or September actually, last year, I was, while this whole cover debate and everything was going on, I was invited to speak at a graduation ceremony in Ottawa for or Gatineau actually, for a college. And my speech was about finding yourself and resilience and finding your purpose and carving your path and, you know, very inspiring and all of that. And after the speech was over, I was sitting on stage as part of the procession as the kids were coming up and getting their degrees. And this is a stage-up college, so it's actually grade 13, so 17, 18-year-olds. And as they're coming on stage and I'm shaking their hands, I'm just like looking at their faces, and they're 17, 18-year-olds, they're kids. That's how old I was. And I could see myself in all of those faces. And I was like, if what happened to me happened to any of these children, would they be any less worthy? Would I be ashamed of them? Would they be, you know, somehow damaged or broken, or would I love them any less? And the answer was no, absolutely not. They would be just as lovable and complete and worthy as they are today. And I went back to the hotel that night, and I had the cover of the picture of the cover in my phone, and I pulled it up, and I started crying. And I just started thanking that girl for not giving up. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. And thank you for burning the midnight oil every night and studying and doing those ILC courses and not giving up and not falling prey to what was being told to you every single day. Because if you didn't do that, I wouldn't exist today. And I thought, if anyone's the hero of the story, it is that girl, and she needs to be celebrated. So there she is.
You now have a newish job. You're Director of Business Finance at BMO.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know a little bit about what that job entails and how your work at the bank relates to the work you've done by writing this book and giving so many inspirational speeches.
Yeah, you know, BMO came to me with a custom role. I develop business on a national level, so it speaks to the business person side of me. And I also work very closely with their women's initiatives and their diversity and inclusion initiatives to promote and support women entrepreneurs and women in general all over the country. So you know, I often talk about like carving my own path, and when you stay true to your purpose, people see that and people align to that, and I'm very lucky to be working in an organization that not just supports my work but celebrates it and helps me grow it. So it's when you just, you know, that again reinforces the fact that you just got to stay true to your purpose, because that's who you are as a person. And I was, you know, oftentimes felt that, you know, I work in banking and in a corporate world, and I don't know how my work will be perceived and all this stuff that I talk about. And but when you stay true to who you are, things will happen.
Amazing. I'd like to open it up now to questions from you. You don't have a microphone, but if you ask your question loudly, I will try my best to repeat it so everyone can hear. Or even better, we could run the mic. Thank you. Any questions for Samra?
Or comments.
Understanding how your parents felt about you coming to Canada, this was a big opportunity. You were going to, be able to be educated and have a husband. What do they think about how everything has folded out since you've been here?
Yeah.
For a number of years.
My father's no more. He died 12 years ago. So I don't know what he has to say about all of this. But my mom, she is in Pakistan, and she was supportive of me leaving. She absolutely, maybe not throughout, but towards the end, she actually came and visited me for a couple of months while I was still married, and she saw a number of the abusive episodes, and she actually said, "Samra, I think you should leave." So she's definitely supported my separation and divorce, and it's just right now, she and I have a relationship. It's not like an ideal mother-daughter relationship. I don't even know which one is, but we have our boundaries and we have our differences in terms of just the way she sees things and perceives things. And the role of a woman and the purpose of a woman's life, and the fact that I'm not married again yet, and all of that, it doesn't really sit well with her. But again, I often say that you have your choices, and you live the way you want, and I respect that, and I expect the same from you. So there are healthy boundaries in place, and it is what it is. Yeah, I'm very close with a couple of my sisters though.
That was actually my question too, but another question would be, did you get any backlash from your community?
Oh, big time. Big time. I was the home wrecker who broke up her home. I was the unfaithful wife, because why else would my husband leave me? A woman leaving is so unheard of. I was a bad mother who was taking her daughters on a path to hell. Even today, because of the fact that I speak up, I'm a narcissist woman who's defaming the culture and the community for her promotion, self-promotion, and all. So yeah, all of that does come, but that negativity is just like a drop in an ocean of positivity. It's the love and the support that I get from people all over the world is just so overwhelming. 4 weeks ago, I was speaking at U of T at a graduation kind of a conference, and I got off stage, and a PhD student, a young woman, came up and said, "I'm not staying for the networking portion. I'm actually leaving right now. I just wanted to come say hi." I said, "Oh, okay, hi, nice, thanks for coming." The reason I'm not staying is because I'm going to the police station to report my abuser. Your speech gave me the courage to do that. So when that happens, all the negativity just fades into background. I'm yeah, bring it on. So I've learned to deal with it with humor. I've learned to deal with it with empathy. I realize it's not personal. Certain people have certain value systems that are threatened, or they feel that they're threatened by someone like me speaking up. And it's not easy, because if they were to believe that what I have to say has merit and it's right, then that means they've been living a lie, and that's a very hard pill to swallow. So it's not about me. It's about what I represent. And the way I see it, if you're not causing discomfort and ruffling a few feathers, then you're not really creating much of a change. So it doesn't bother me that way anymore.
Hi. So what advice would you give to somebody who was in your situation, as I'm sure that you said that you meet a lot of women who are trying to get away from their abuser, because myself personally, I'm trying to help a woman escape from somebody, and I've been trying to look up lots of resources, safe houses, etc. But I'm finding that when it comes to the counseling side of things, there's just tons of wait lists, and I'm not sure what you would suggest moving forward.
There's tons of wait lists, and the other sort of opportunity to work on that I see is that there absolutely needs to be more cultural competency built into counseling. So I'm not sure, what the background of your friend is, but I know like a lot of women feel that they cannot. So violence against women or abuse is actually universal. It happens to people from every background, every culture, every race, every country. Even here in North America, it's 1 in 3 women and 1 in 5 men will have suffered from abuse at some point in their lives, and those are underreported stats because when you take into factor psychological and emotional abuse and financial abuse, it actually is a lot higher. So, but while it is universal, the experience of it is highly cultural. A friend of mine who's also an abuse survivor says, Samra, if a white woman walks out of an abusive marriage, more often than not, she will find some support, and she will find some people who will say, well, yeah, you should leave, don't stay with him, and well, we're not alone. It's not ideal, but she will find some people. And whereas when someone from our background leaves, it's ridicule and shame. And are you crazy? Why are you leaving? You have to stay and make it work. So absolutely there has to be more cultural competency built in, that level of shame and stigma, it differs from culture to culture. And as far as advice goes, and what I would say to you is, you cannot help somebody before they're ready to be helped. You cannot make someone change their life. And that's a struggle. I've got a couple of very close family members who are going through abuse as well, but I feel helpless because sometimes I feel what can I do? What can I say? But at the end of the day, she will find that strength within herself. And if she's already made a decision to leave, then there are counselings and there are wait lists, but then there is for example, the one resource that comes to mind right away is Assaulted Women's Helpline. I called them so many times, sometimes multiple times a day, whenever I was having those weak moments, and I was just what's going on, and I don't know. And even I think I called them even 7 or 8 months ago when I just woke up with a bad dream and a bit of a flashback of something that had happened, and I just needed someone to talk to. It's a 24/7 anonymous service, and there are trained counselors who are there, and they always pick up the phone right away, and you can talk to them for as long as you want. Yeah, it's not like going to somebody for ongoing counseling, but it's a service that's readily available all across Ontario. And I tell women all the time, just take advantage of that because they're actually excellent people. So I hope that helps.
I have a friend who's in a similar situation as you are. She's back home. So my question is, do you think you would have been able to pull this off if you were in the subcontinent?
That's a very good question, and I get asked that quite often. And I don't know what I don't know. I do know that I would have kept trying. I do know that I would have made attempts to leave. Whether I would have achieved what I did and been successful in those attempts and gotten the success that I did, that I don't think so, because all that came because of the support that I got here. So yeah, while making that decision and attempting and all of that and making all these tries of leaving was something that came from inside me. But then how I was elevated and supported came from what was around me and the people that were around me. So that sense of community and empowering support system is very, very important. I do think I definitely know I would have tried, and I definitely know I would have, maybe I would have been successful in leaving, but I'm not sure if I would have come this far. And that's as sad and heartbreaking it is, and I hope that changes over time. But I think just, and again, it depends from community to community as well. Like let's say if my family was very, very supportive, then yeah, I would have, right? Or if I had, other like really amazing friends around me, then yeah. So it's gonna look very different from people, for people from across backgrounds. But I know personally, like based on who my family was and where the people that I had around me, I wouldn't have. But for maybe some other woman who is living in India and Pakistan and who is going through this, but she has that support system around her and her family is very progressive and enlightened and will help her, then yeah. It's all about the support around you. I mean, the decision to leave is yours, but what happens afterwards is built, that resilience is built through who's around you to support you. And I got that at U of T. So, and certainly if I was in Pakistan and based on my own family values, like my own family and how they see women, I don't think so.
I just wanted to know, what is your children's relationship with their father? Do they have it at all, or?
It's like, it's been very back and forth. Like initially, my older daughter refused to see him for a number of years, and then I pushed her to see him, and that caused a lot of trauma for her. And then eventually, like now, it's sort of like at a place where I have told them that you can see him if you want to, however much you want to. I'm not going to say one way or the other. I'm going to support you in whatever you want. So, they will make plans with him maybe once or twice a month to go for lunch or go for ice cream or something, and sometimes they don't. So it is all up to them, and I let them decide that. But it's very superficial. Like they don't align with his values, and they don't like the way he treats his new wife, and they just feel like they're like, yeah, we know him, he's our dad and we love him, but we don't really like him much as a person. So they're kind of hovering between that, and they'll find their own way and they'll find their own path. So it's their journey, and my job is to acknowledge their feelings and support them.
Awesome. So this is going to be our last question.
Hi. First of all, I want to congratulate you for walking away and just being very successful today. Question for you is, everybody strives and has role models around you or somebody important in your life. Who are your role models?
Oh gosh. I don't. Well, during my marriage and childhood, I didn't really have one. It was just me scrambling and like literally clawing my way out and just trying to find something. I think now in my life, I certainly have role models and people that I look up to. When I won that big scholarship at U of T, the chair of that committee that decided who the winner was, he is a very successful CEO, and he's actually mentioned in the book. He's John Rothschild, and he's really an amazing person. And he took me under his wing and became my mentor. It's been 6 years now, and we meet every single month for breakfast, coffee. He's always there at all my events, and if there's one person that I would give a lot of credit to for my success, it would be him. Like he's there when I want to bounce ideas about my career, about my personal life, or whatever. Like he's my sort of speed dial number one go-to person, and certainly I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for his support. I look up to him a lot, and a couple of my professors during university days. But I think my motivation came more from my daughters than somebody else that I looked up to. I mean, the fire in me was like, I need to give them a better life. I need to make sure that they get every opportunity that I was robbed of. And I need to make sure that they have the freedom to chase their dreams. So that was like the fuel. So yeah.
Samra, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I honestly don't know if we've ever done an Eternal Life event that was so personally an emotional roller coaster. It's really an amazing story, and I have to thank you once again for sharing it with Eternal Life. We're amazed by you and so grateful that you could come out and do this with us tonight. I wanted to thank everyone that came out tonight. You could be doing something amazing, I'm sure, with your time. You could be at a club, and instead you're here for what I think was, it's an amazing thing every time I see people participating in the city this way. It makes me really proud to be a Torontonian. It makes me really proud to publish the amazing magazine that we published. So thank you, Sarah, as well. Once again, thank you so much for coming out. If you're a WeWork member, you'll have an opportunity to become a member of Eternal Life Insider. And Samra is signing. Sorry, this is an amazing story. Like 10 times better than our Oscar-winning picture. I deeply encourage you to buy a book, which Samra will sign for you, because it'll be something I think that'll be of lasting importance, not only to you, but to everyone as well. So get a book, get it signed, have something to eat, have something to drink, and again, thank you so much, and thank you, Samra.
One last thing. Just before we end, I look forward to chatting with all of you, and I'm here for as long as you guys are here. Just one little thing I'll say is that I know that there are people in this room right now who are victims and survivors of abuse. I know that there are people who are in your life whom you may or may not know of who have suffered or who are suffering. And I just want to say that we can all do our little bit in making that difference, creating that safe space. Sometimes it's just offering a smile. Sometimes it's just asking somebody and saying, hey, would you like to go for a coffee? Sometimes it's just having a simple conversation. And that little bit of human connection can mean the world to somebody. That little action on your part can be life-changing for someone. So sometimes we hesitate and we're like, no, it's our personal thing and we don't want to talk about it, or maybe I don't know if I should or not. But reach out and offer that connection. Reach out and just be there for someone and support them and say, hey, I'm here for you. And that really could save a life. And we all have the power to do that. So just lean into your humanity and offer support, and that's how we'll create a better world for everybody. Thank you.